And so I kind of want that to be, like, I don't have a way to summarize that well, but that's kind of our focus for today, is how can yoga help us cope with change. So we're all gonna lie down on our mat. If we have a wall, we're gonna put our legs up the wall. If we don't have a wall, we're actually gonna just start with legs on the mat. And so just relaxing, maybe bringing the hands to the belly. So one on your lower belly, one on your mid belly, just below your rib cage. And mine, I like to rest my elbows because I don't want to like use my arm and shoulder muscles to help them stay there. So it's okay if they're not right at center. Try to relax your entire body. And then just start to breathe. And notice your breath. Notice how your belly moves. Notice how the breath wants to come into the body and how it wants to leave. What does the breath feel like as it travels through the nose? What does it feel like as it travels through the throat? And what does it feel like as it enters the lungs and makes change in the torso? Can you feel your belly expand within yourself all the way down to your pelvic floor, all the way up underneath your collarbones, underneath your shoulders? Can you feel your breath expand underneath your ribs, going in all four directions? So the back towards your mat, out to each side, and then the front coming up towards the ceiling. And then just try to lengthen the exhale. So our exhale is what can help us activate the parasympathetic nervous system. I heard someone call that nervous system the rest and digest nervous system. So when your sympathetic nervous system, which is the one that helps you run away from bears, is activated, you cannot rest, and your body does not digest your food because it sends all of your blood to activate your muscles so that you can run away. And so in order to have good digestion, in order to absorb all of the vitamins and minerals and good stuff that hopefully we are putting into our body, we need to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. In order to get rest, we need to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. If your legs are up the wall, or if your legs are on your mat, bend your knees out towards the sides and bring your feet together. So Supta Baddha Konasana, either on the mat or up the wall. Cobbler's pose. And if the legs are up the wall, yeah, you can use hands to support the legs, either by just giving them extra support or gently pressing on the thighs to help the knees migrate towards the wall any little bit that you can. If you're on your back, just letting gravity help your knees descend towards the earth. And then once again, tuning into the breath. Helping the breath help us rest and digest. Helping the breath help us cultivate peace and quiet and calm within ourselves, so that when the world around us gets crazy and swirls, we can be that steady center of calm. So I actually listened to a webinar this week about breathing, and she said that she kept on talking about the mind versus the brain. And so the brain is like the animalistic mammalian thing, and the mind is kind of the human thing, right? So like when we say our mind is racing, it's our mind that thinks about a zillion thoughts and doesn't let us calm down. So she was saying that your brain doesn't know where you are, ever. All your brain wants to know is, are you okay? Or do you need to run from a bear? Our mind is the one that like makes up the stuff, right? So when we feel stress, our brain automatically activates the sympathetic nervous system and is ready to run from a bear, whether the stress is actually a bear or a hard conversation. But she said your breath can trick your brain, because your brain doesn't know where you are ever. It doesn't know what situation you're actually in. It's just asking your body and your mind, are you okay? And so you can use your breath, a deep inhale and a slow, long exhale. And that slow, long exhale will tell your brain, I'm okay. So we want to cultivate some I'm okay, so we can tap into that. Extend your legs either down the mat or back up the wall. If your legs are down your mat, bend your left leg. People with legs up the wall cross your right ankle onto your left leg. And then if you're up the wall, gently and slowly bend the left knee. You might not be able to go very far, but you're trying to get into that hip. Yep, there you go. And if you are not with a wall, you can lift the left leg and come into figure four. So figure four either on the wall or like normal. And then again, tune into the breath. And those of you that are not at a wall, you can pretend that you're at a wall and lengthen that left leg, even if that's not something you usually practice, just for fun. You can practice figure four a little bit differently. Breathing deeply. So connecting everything I've already said to how can we use yoga to help us cope with change. I think change causes stress, right? But it's the mind resisting the change that causes the stress. And so, once again, a big part of yoga, so yoga has 8 limbs. Only one limb are these physical poses that we do. One whole other limb is our breath practice. And so we can use the breath practice to help reassure our brain that we are okay. So in the webinar, the person said that I guess her niece was in like a children's hospital for a long time, 48 days or something. And she said, my brain doesn't know if I'm in children's hospital or if I'm at home on my couch on a nice summer night. All I have to do is take a deep breath with a slow exhale. And my brain believes I'm okay. And then I can digest my food. And then I can rest and be more comfortable. So in the midst of change, my big question is, can we breathe? Can we use our breath to trick our brain into thinking we are okay, even if we're not? Even if our mind says we don't want change to happen, can we trick our brain into thinking that we are okay so that our body can work the best it can? So if you're at the wall, extend your left leg slowly up the wall and uncross your right leg. If you're on the mat, let your left leg float down, uncross your right leg, and then shake your legs out. So just kind of temper tantrum on the wall. Yeah, perfect. And the knees, shake them out however you want. If you're not up the wall, you can do some knee rocks. And then when you're ready, switch sides. So left leg crosses onto right thigh. And then either bending to bring that right leg down. Beautiful. And if you're at the wall, you don't need to bend your knee very far, but try to keep your tailbone down as far as possible. Yeah, so tailbone grounded. And hopefully you feel it in your hip. Good. Good. And if you're not at all, maybe that option to extend the right leg up. Just for a different feel of figure 4. And if you're not at a wall, I really suggest that maybe sometime this week that you just go to a wall, you do like 5 minutes legs up the wall, and then figure 4 at the wall, because figure 4 at the wall feels so different than it does on the mat, at least for me. So it's fun to explore. So coming back to the breath. How smooth and how calming can you make your breath? So the other thing that I really liked from this webinar is she talked about life when we're in stress mode and when we feel like everything is falling apart. That's kind of like having a deck of 52 cards and they just like got thrown all over the room. And each breath is like picking up a card and putting it back in the deck. So even if you can only take one deep breath and slowly exhale, that is one card that you get to put back in your deck. And that yes, like you might not get all of your cards picked up and back in the deck, but there is a way to do it, and it's through the breath. And so once again, when we are facing big life changes, like we all, I mean, the world has experienced this collective trauma of COVID. So we've all recently experienced our lives kind of being turned upside down. And that's like, once again, all of the cards being dumped out. And then slowly you can use your breath to pick them up again. And it was so awesome to hear that from me because it's so simple. Like it really is simple. We always have our breath with us. Let's come out of the stretch gently and slowly. We always have our breath with us. We can always rely on the breath because the only time our breath is not with us is when we're gone. And then we don't need it anymore, right? Because the stress is over. And so it's a tool that we always have. It's always with us. We don't have to remember it when we leave the house. It's like awesome. So if you have legs up a wall, let's slowly and gently come away from the wall. You can bend your knees, and then pivot to one side. Slowly, slowly, slowly come up to some sort of seat. You might want to move your mat away. Those of you without a wall, slowly come up to a seat. You know, like kind of face crooked, so that I'm facing all of you. And this woman had like an adorable accent and really cute hair. So it was really fun to watch. And listen to, yeah. But it is just so simple. Like our breath is so important. And I did actually kind of like going into the webinar, I thought like I was gonna have tools to better teach breath practice, and she like didn't do that at all. She's like, keep it simple, guys. Like it doesn't matter what breath you use it all. It actually matters just how you breathe in every moment. And so like, yeah, go, you know, if you want to study Ujjayi breathing or like whatever, she named a bunch of them. She's like, that's all fine, but like just our normal breath is the most important thing. And I was like, oh, that's like so simple. Like it's so true. So now that we're seated, our breath kind of changes within our body. So let's come back to it and think about, again, the 6 directions. So up and down, side to side. I usually think about the rib cage most because that's what gets to move side to side most. And then front and back, which for me is kind of the belly and the rib cage. So take like 5 or 6. Deep breaths in. You can count the seconds if you want, and then longer out. You can close the eyes. Notice the different parts of your body. Notice how your spine can stay long and tall, but your shoulders still have room to move up with the inhale just slightly and descend just slightly with the exhale. Notice how your belly can move out with the inhale and then contract back with the exhale. Notice the rib cage and how much movement we actually do have. And then if your eyes were closed, gently and slowly open them. Let's move the body a little bit. I'm going to not put down the water bottle. Inhale, sweep the arms up. Exhale, lean over to the right. Keep the left hip grounded. Inhale, reach up. to the sky, exhale, over to the left. On your next inhale, come up to the center and then move as you wish with the breath. Letting the breath guide you. If you need more time in the stretch, take a full breath there. If you want to move your body a little bit more, then one breath to one movement. And then the next time you come to the center, just bring the arms down and do a few shoulder rolls. Another webinar that's on my list is about shoulder anatomy. I'm really excited to learn even more things to get into the shoulders because my shoulders are a mess. It carries so much tension, and I think so. Switch the direction of your shoulder rolls. I think there's a lot that we can do to release the tension that we carry in our shoulders, neck, and hips. Those are kind of our stress carriers. And then just kind of shake the shoulders out, however you want to. And then when you're ready, inhale, sweep the arms up. And exhale, forward fold. Wherever your body stops you, just allow it to be there. Release the head with the weight of the head. Stretch the neck. And stretch into the back. So a train is coming. We're gonna come up out of this and switch the legs and then come forward again. So that's where we're going. So bring the hands towards the body, rolling up through the back. Switch the legs. I forget who it was. Oh, the train's going that way, so it's probably not true. But someone online said that, like, if I say there's a train coming, it's like 5 minutes later that they hear the train. That's awesome. I don't know if that's Meg. I forget who that was. Anyway, inhale, sweep the arms up. We're all connected somehow. Exhale. Come forward, just be gentle with the body, realizing that this is our non-dominant side. So if this hip feels tighter, or if you're not able to go as far into the fold, just know that that is normal and okay, but we want to strive towards balance between the sides of our body. We'll probably never get there just because we do have that dominant side. And so our dominant side tends to be stronger, but less flexible. And I know that's weird to think about in our hips, but it's there too. It's in our writing hand, which is often the hand that we use to pick things up, so that side of the body gets stronger. Walk the hands towards the body, rolling up through the spine. Keep the legs there if you can stand the discomfort, and then drop the chin down towards the chest. Breathe for a moment, try to keep the spine long until it bends in the neck. And then just gently roll one ear towards the shoulder. And at your own pace, roll back to the center and towards the other side. So if you want more time towards one side, feel free to do that. We'll take about 6 breaths, moving from side to side or holding on one side for a little bit longer. Noticing how the breath changes the stretch. And then eventually meeting with chin towards chest. Taking a breath or two there. And then lifting the gaze. Bringing the legs over to one side, coming out of that crossing of legs on the non-dominant side, which is hard. Into table, stacking the joints, shoulders over wrists, hips over knees. And then extending the right leg back, tucking the toe, planting the tucked toes, and then gently pressing the hips back towards the heel, sending your energy through the heel to stretch the back of the leg. And there are lots of places you might feel this. So bottom of the foot in the plantar fascia, you might feel it in the Achilles tendon or the calf or the hamstring. Just take a breath and imagine that breath moving towards whichever spot you feel the stretch. And then gently move the hips back right over the left knee, bring the right knee down and wiggle the hips side to side, wag the tail. It can be slow, just getting into those hips again. And then switch sides, so left leg extends behind the body, tuck the toes. Press through the heel, letting the hips move ever so slightly back towards the heel. So some people might have a little bit more movement. Some people it might just be barely noticeable. If the wrists bother you, you can always come to fists. And breathe into whatever area of the back of the leg or foot that you feel the stretch. And then release, come back to table, and then do some cat-cows. Inhale, belly descends towards the mat, chin and tailbone lift. Exhale, back rounds, chin tucks. Keep moving with your breath for about 3 rounds. Making sure that exhale is long and smooth. And then when you feel ready, coming down to child's pose, or if you prefer puppy pose, taking puppy pose. Any version of child's pose is fine. So I know I shared this one time with you guys, but I saw a meme where someone's in child's pose in the middle of the supermarket, and the caption is like, "My yoga teacher told me I could take child's pose whenever I need to." I don't advise doing child's pose in the middle of the supermarket right now with COVID, but sometimes I wish I could take child's pose like in the middle of my teaching day. Oh my goodness. Everyone's more story. My mind is like wandering. So I had a student, we just finished our 2nd week of school, and we've been doing breakout rooms from the very first day. And I just had a student ask me like,
I don't know how to get to my breakout room. Like I asked like, hey, where were you today when your group was doing whatever, whatever, whatever? And he was like, oh, how do I get to my group? And I'm like, the link on the document that has all the breakout rooms. He's like, oh, I never opened that. I'm like, yeah, that's why you've never been with your group. Like, oh my goodness.
Okay, deep breaths.
Come back up to table. Okay, so a little more shoulder. Let's take the right arm and lengthen it up to the sky. And then exhale, come down to the side of the shoulder and side of the head. And again, any option you want here. So left hand can stay in front of the face to support, or it can lengthen above the head. It can tuck behind the back, or it can extend up to the sky. Whatever choice you want to make. Breathing deeply. So this is an inversion. So just noticing the breath again. We really focused in on the breath as we were supine, lying down. We noticed the breath as we were seated. And now inverted. Just notice the breath. Wherever your left hand is, bring the hand back onto the mat in front of the face. Press into the hand to come back up. And then whatever wiggles you want to do, you can wag the tail, you can do some C curves, you can do cat-cow, whatever your body wants. Between the sides, you can even do some shoulder rolls. And then when you're ready, left arm extends up to the sky. And then exhale to bring it under the right, into the left side, thread the needle. So inversions are awesome because they help extra blood flow get to the mind, the brain, and that can elevate mood, that can sharpen thinking. So anything we can do to invert every day, even if that's just like, you know, taking an extra second in the shower when you're washing your legs to be a little bit inverted, head below the hips. And if that's not safe for you in the shower, don't do it. And then press into the palm to come back up. Again, any wiggles that your body wants to take, go ahead and take them. And then we're going to bring the right foot forward. So slide that right foot forward between the hands, maybe even a little bit in front of the hands. And then lean the hips forward any amount. Nice. Yeah, so maybe bring the foot a little bit more forward so that the knee doesn't pass the ankle, just for support. And up on fingertips is a good way to create a little extra space. And then if you want and you feel balanced, you can put your right hand on your right leg. Hopefully that's the leg you go forward. And then maybe bring your left leg up. And with that extra space, sometimes you can bring the hips a little bit deeper if you have space in your hip flexor. If the body is upright, try to take a more full breath into the low belly. Sometimes, at least for me, my leg gets in the way of my low belly when I'm more down, which is why I love using blocks in runner's lunge. And then gently, left hand usually first down, right hand. And then walk the hands back, lifting the toes, straightening the leg. And if you can balance just on a couple fingers, you can come up a little bit more and flatten the back. Or if you have blocks, you can use blocks, and that helps a lot. Flexing the foot as much as your body will allow. So I know the back of the legs tend to be a little tight, especially if we've been doing a lot of gardening this summer. And then walk the hands forward, planting the foot, bending into the knee. And then one more time, if you want to press into the thigh to get that extra lift and space. Breath. Settling the mind. And then gently one hand and then the other. And then lean the hips back so that you can pull that foot back through. Any wiggles, realign. And then when you're ready, left foot will come forward. However you want it to come forward. I'm leaving like sock fuzzies all over. Oops. Feeling the hip flexor. And then once again, if you want that extra little space, left hand to the left thigh, and then right hand. If it ever gets uncomfortable on the back knee, especially if you're at home, put something soft under your knee, a blanket, a towel. Here, just back off a little bit, since I can't provide that for you. And you can always bring your own props when you come into the studio. So if you have blocks at home or blankets that work well for yoga, feel free to bring those. Right hand down, left hand down, and then start to shift the hips back. Walk the hands back, it might be just fingertips, and then flex the foot as much as your body allows. Breathe deeply, especially when it gets intense. So again, I like to think about, okay, like, you know, this isn't my favorite stretch. Maybe it is yours, but it's intense. And so why would we do this on our mat? Like, yeah, it benefits our muscles. But when we get into intense situations, like maybe a coworker is being frustrating and you are just like over the top with them, we tend to hold our breath. So yoga teaches us to live in this intense situation. Let's walk forward. And still breathe through it. So once again, coming back to that breath, that tool that we always have in our tool belt, no matter how stressed or how busy we are, we can always come back to the breath. We can always use the breath to aid us during change, during stress. Let's bring the right hand down, left hand down, shift the hips back just enough to pull that leg back. And then any wiggles before we go onto our back. So once you're ready, shift the hips off to one side, pull the legs around. So one of the bummers about being pregnant is I'm not supposed to do any core work, which I like every time I'm pregnant. I mean, this is my second pregnancy, but like the first time I didn't even know that until 14 weeks. And my yoga teacher was like, yeah, you should have stopped like 8 weeks ago. I was like, oh, oops. And then this time, like every appointment with the midwives, like at 4 weeks, I was like, how important is that? And she was like, really important. And then like 8 weeks, I was like, do I really have to stop? And she's like, yeah, you should stop. And then 12 weeks, I was like, okay, let's review this again. Like, do I really need to stop? Yeah, you should stop. Okay, fine. I'm accepting it. So go ahead and gently and slowly
finally giving in. So let's all extend the legs up towards the sky. So legs up the imaginary wall. So there are lots of ways to do this once we get there. But we're gonna do some leg drops. So you can drop both legs together, or you can drop one at a time, and you can always decide how far you're gonna drop your legs. But for extra support, I like to make a triangle with my hands. So my thumbs are together and my pointer fingers are together. And then you can bend the knees, plant the feet, lift the bum like we're doing a bridge, and then put that triangle under your sacrum. So, like my hands are kind of supporting the flesh of my bum. And you will kind of figure out where the best place is, because if you are too low, you'll be rocking across your thumbs and that'll be really painful. And if you're too high, you'll be rocking across your forefingers and that will, or your pointer fingers and that will be painful. So I'm going to show you one leg at a time, but you can do both legs. So we're going to take a deep inhale. And then on the exhale, let one leg descend towards the mat, never hitting the mat. And then inhale, lifting that leg back up. It is like exponentially harder to do both legs. So exhale, legs come down, or single leg, so opposite leg, left leg, maybe second, inhale up. So you can try both legs and just not go as far, or you can just do one leg at a time. So one leg at a time is still really working your core. And try to use a really slow, smooth movement as you go. And if you know any safe ways to make this harder and you have a strong core already, you can do what you need to do. But if this is new to you, I highly suggest just doing one leg at a time to build that core strength. So the core is super important for keeping ourselves safe as we age. So the core aids us when we step wrong and we kind of lose our balance. The core is what brings us back to stability instead of falling down and breaking our hip, right? And especially where we live, because we have to walk on icy surfaces for months of the year, that becomes really important. We can't avoid it all, but it's super important. And then when you're ready, bring knees into chest, rock side to side. And then plant feet, heels in line with sits bones. Imagine that you have a block between your legs and that you're squeezing the block together. So your knees aren't allowed to move towards each other, but you are activating those inner thighs to squeeze them together. So if you actually have a block, this is like actually an awesome thing to do, to activate the inner thighs when we go up into the hinge. Hands by the side of your hips, palms facing down. You can press gently into the palms to activate the triceps, those important muscles that don't get worked often enough. Tilt the pelvis so that the small of the back, actually it's tucking the pelvis, so that the small of the back presses on to the mat, and then lift the hips when you feel ready into a bridge pose. Option here to hold or to use the breath. So exhaling, coming down vertebrae by vertebrae. And then inhaling, pressing the low back. That's always the first step. And then lifting the hips. So you can hold the bridge for 4-ish breaths, or you can flow for 4-ish breaths. Keeping the gaze straight up and down is important. Breathing deeply. And then when you are done, go ahead and let your heels look just slightly away from the body and rock the knees. You can also widen the feet. You can take opposite elbows and you can rock the elbows the opposite way of the knees if you want to add in a little shoulder stretch. You can link it to the breath. And then reach the arms up to the sky when you're ready and shake the arms out. Shake those wrists out. And then let them come back, hands on the belly, just like we started. Knees can stay bent just to support the low back. And take a few breaths. Try to notice if there's anything different about the breath now than what it was like at the beginning of class. Has the quality changed? Has the length changed? Has the space that the breath can inhabit changed? Has your familiarity with the breath changed? Maybe after all my talking, your opinion or your use of the breath might change. Knowing that we can use the breath to trick the brain into thinking that we are okay, even sometimes when we're not. But allowing our breath to trick the brain can activate the parasympathetic nervous system and allow us to rest and digest even when we have stress or fear or any of the other things that stop our bodies from working the way we want them to work. All right, about 2 minutes of yogi playtime. Some suggestions are a little bit more core work, happy baby, another bridge, maybe bring your knees into the chest one at a time. So whatever it is that your body needs, a little bit more motion, a little bit more stillness before we take that rest, that practice rest that helps us digest, that helps us cultivate the calm and peace within so that we can have it all there for us when we need it out in our life. Oh, we did not do a twist. A twist would be a good idea. I don't know how I left out a twist. So if you want a twist, go ahead and take it. And whatever you're choosing, make sure you move on to the second side if you haven't. And then come back to center when you're ready and come into Shavasana. So if you have a wall and you want to put legs back up the wall for Shavasana, you could do that. If you have any props that you want to use at home, feel free to do that as well. And then just let the breath be. So we have been actively controlling the breath the entire class. And so now is the time to let the breath practice on its own, being full enough to allow that rest and digest. Begin to deepen your breath. Gently and slowly start moving the body. Bending the knees, maybe
rocking a little bit with knees into chest. And then eventually rolling over onto one side or rocking forward and back, however you want to come up to a seated position. And then once we're there, let's inhale, reach the arms up, turn the palms away, exhale, fingertips come down to the mat. 2 more times, inhale, reach up, maybe lift the chin, exhale, fingertips down, inhale, lift the palms, this time bring the palms together and exhale to heart center. The light within me honors the light within each of you. Namaste.
Namaste.